Let's begin with some breaking news now coming in from UK. After Leicester, it's Birmingham. There seems to be no end to the Hindu hate. No clashes, but protests that are witnessed outside a temple in Birmingham. The right wing saying that it's an attempt to intimidate. These are the videos that are doing the rounds on social media. A crowd of over 200 people seen protesting outside the temple. This is about 70 kilometers from Leicester, and protests taking place, but things also getting unruly. In fact, some of the protesters can also be seen climbing the walls of the temple. This is the boundary wall of the temple. Provocative slogans also being chanted. Executive Editor Padmaja Joshi joining us over the phone line. Padmaja, first it was Leicester, now in Birmingham. What led to this? Why does there seem to be no action? Police officials seen there, clearly outnumbered and not doing much.
Well, eventually action did take place. This is about 200 people, as is being reported by Sky News, the local correspondent, is that about 200 people assembled there. This protest was planned by a group called Apna Muslims, according to a social media post that they made, and they were protesting against a speech that was planned there by Sadhvi Ritambara. She was to address the gathering there at the Durga Devi temple, and the protest was against that. Subsequently, 200 people assembled. Local news outlets are reporting that a firecracker and a few bottles were thrown at the temple. Eventually, though, multi-faith leaders and the police had to intervene, and this entire issue was sorted. Things were calmed down, but not before there was a tense standoff. Pratibha, there are also the priests of the temple and the local members of the Hindu community who have been quoted saying that to try and depict it as an organization of the BJP RSS is misleading. This is basically a temple which is run and attended by the local Hindu population and is not in any way affiliated to the BJP RSS. But there are several people in the crowd who seem to be insinuating that this is a protest against some kind of quote-unquote BJP RSS fascist agenda. Thankfully, though, things were controlled just in time. There was no violence. However, bottles were thrown, and also a couple of firecrackers being thrown is being reported. Back to you.
All right, we're seeing visuals that show that despite the police presence, in some of the places they can be seen trying to climb the walls as well. But this can have far-reaching consequences. What does this really mean for the Indian community, not just in Leicester or Birmingham, but in the United Kingdom?
The thing is, Pratibha, that this unfortunately started over an India-Pakistan match which happened during the Asia Cup, and things have bubbled over since then. Now, there are multiple accounts which have come since that time from the local community leaders who say that things pretty much were in control after the India-Pakistan match, while there were, there were confrontations between members of the two communities on the street. One side says that when they were marching on the street, people tried to grab a tricolour, and that's when an altercation happened. However, things had calmed down.
Okay.
Subsequently, in the middle of September, suddenly over this weekend, the weekend just gone by, there were attacks on Hindu households, especially at the time when Ganesh Chaturthi also was being celebrated earlier at the end of August. And that has what has led to an escalation of tensions. So now the Hindu community is saying that this, far from being related to the cricket match, has now turned into a targeting or a very specific targeting of one community based on their religious identity, because this is not just about a match. Now Hindu households are being marked out and attacked, and in this latest case, as you've seen in Birmingham, another temple.
Okay, all right. Padmaja, thank you for joining us. With that perspective, we have Mr. Manjinder Sirsa also joining us on the broadcast. Mr. Sirsa, this is a very scary situation for the community at large, because first it was Leicester. This was said to be a peaceful protest that was organized outside the temple in Birmingham. But here as well, you can see things got out of control. A few people even seen trying to get into the temple.
That's what I anticipated. When it happened in Leicester, this was my exact comments. It is just a starting. The British government won't be able to control them anymore. ये पहली बार नहीं, हमने पहले भी देखा है इस तरह के जो माहौल बनाने का काम करती हैं ये ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस, इंस्टिगेट करती हैं। और उस दिन देखा गया किस तरह मंदिर की दीवार के ऊपर चढ़कर उन्होंने मंदिर के ध्वज को तोड़ गिराया और पुलिस उसको देखती रही। उससे उनका मनोबल बहुत बड़ा, उनको लगा कि हम तो अनकंट्रोलेबल है, पुलिस तो हमारे खिलाफ कोई कार्रवाई कर ही नहीं सकती। और उसी के चलते अब ये आगे बढ़ता जा रहा है और ये अभी रुकने वाला नहीं है। मुझे लगता है कि वहाँ के जब तक ब्रिटिश गवर्नमेंट ये नहीं समझ पाएगी कि ये जो काम चलन शुरू हुआ है ये वहाँ के ब्रिटिश लोगों के लिए बहुत खतरनाक है और ये इस तरह का रूप धारण करेगा कि बाद में सरकार चाहकर भी रोक नहीं पाएगी। जैसे हम भी यहाँ पर रोज हमें झगड़ा करना पड़ता है। तो ये सिचुएशन आउट ऑफ कंट्रोल होती जा रही है। गवर्नमेंट को अभी से स्ट्रिक्ट एक्शन लेना होगा। जो लोगों ने ये किया है उनको डिपोर्ट किया जाए, उनको बैन किया जाए कंट्री में उनका आना। उनका छोड़ो, उनके साथ वालों का भी बैन किया जाए। जब तक सरकार इस तरह से सख्त कदम नहीं उठाएगी, ब्रिटेन की गवर्नमेंट इन चीजों को रोकने में आगे आगे और नाकाम होती जाएगी।
Okay. I also want to talk about, the mention of BJP that is being done with the politics being playing out here. Manjinder ji, I request you to stay on with us. Let's take a look. Let's show our viewers what is happening there. This was said to be a peaceful protest, but then this is what happened. In the visuals there, provocative slogans of another religion being chanted, people in large numbers, about 200 of them outside the temple, a place of peaceful prayers. This is where we are seeing such protests taking place. Mr. Sirsa continues to be with us. So, one of the statements that had been made, in fact, yesterday after the violence in Leicester as well, the TMC spokesperson has spoken of a BJP hand, saying that wahan pe Indian community, they are huge in numbers. This is going to have an impact in the elections in India, and that's why such events are taking place there. How do you respond to that?
That is a very shameful statement. Reason being, how can you accuse the people living abroad for your own petty politics? आप अपनी घटिया राजनीति के लिए, गंदी राजनीति के लिए वहाँ पे लोग जो मेहनत करके फंसे हैं और अपने धर्म की रक्षा भी कर रहे हैं, आप उनकी सपोर्ट नहीं कर सकते, ठीक है, लेकिन कम से कम आप उनको अक्यूज तो ना करें। अब वहाँ पे जो कम्युनिटी रह रही हैं, उन कम्युनिटीज के ऊपर निरंतर ये हमले पहली बार नहीं हुए। आपको याद रखना होगा, ये ऐसे अनेकों बार पहले भी हमला हो चुका है और ये एक इनकी शुरू से मोडस ऑपरेंडी ही रही है। पहले ये अपने आप को कमजोर बताकर एक मुल्क में एंटर करते हैं और उसके बाद आपने देखा हो फ्रांस के अंदर भी किस तरह सारी सड़कें बंद करने की रोक दी गई। तो ये जो इस तरह के हालात बना रखे हैं, ये ब्रिटेन के लिए भी खतरनाक है, लेकिन हमारे लोग जो उनकी सपोर्ट कर रहे हैं, ये उससे भी बहुत शर्मिंदगी की बात है कि ऐसे लोग भी हैं जो आज भी अपने मजहब के ऊपर होते हमले को एक राजनीतिक पार्टी के साथ जोड़ते हैं। ये उससे भी बुरी बात है।
In fact, now the Indian High Commission has also strongly protested the violence that took place in Leicester. At a sensitive time, we saw a protest was organized in Birmingham. Here as well, the situation getting out of hand. The Indian and the Muslim community there have openly called for calm to ensure that everything is in place. I just want to ask you lastly about the far-reaching consequences that it can have, the bigger impact that it can have, because it's not just about this protest. Wahan Indian community hai, and it's not just Leicester or in Birmingham, in several places across the UK as well, it can have an impact.
See, I just want to remind you one thing. Jathedar Akal Takht Sahib, who is the highest temporal authority of Sikhs, while addressing a community there, he said one thing, कि आप अपनी भारत से जायदाद बेचकर मत जाएं, थोड़े दिन बाद अफगानिस्तान की तरह आपको इंग्लैंड से भी जाना होगा। जब उन्होंने ये स्टेटमेंट दी तो बहुत सारे लोग सोचते थे कि जथेदार अकाल तख्त।
Okay, all right. Mr. Sirsa, thank you for joining us with that. Mr. Ratan Sharda is also joining us on the broadcast. Mr. Sharda, have the worst fears now come true? We saw what happened in Leicester. Now, in less than 24 hours, we're seeing another attack. This time, yet again, a targeted protest outside a temple in Birmingham. All right, we'll go back to Mr. Ratan Sharda in just a bit, but you saw what happened. On the left side hand of your screens are the protests in Leicester. This is where the clashes took place. The temple was targeted. The saffron flag was also pulled down. Within 24 hours, we're seeing another protest. This is in Birmingham. They say this was against the visit of a sadhvi to the temple, but clearly the protests seem to have gotten out of hand. Religious slogans of another religion being chanted right outside the temple, seen as a clear provocation. Listen in to what happened. So Allahu Akbar chants right outside the temple. Mr. Ratan Shraddha, back on the phone line with us. How do you respond to what has happened? This is a clear provocation. We're seeing over 200 people there. This was said to be a peaceful protest. On social media, people had been called for this protest. But clearly things seem to have gotten out of hand.
The Islamists strutting around as seculars and as leftist liberals should learn some lessons. It was very clear this is a much larger conspiracy than, some small Indo-Pakistan match. And this was clear because already crowds had come from Birmingham, other places to threaten the Hindus in Leicester. Same is happening in Birmingham, and you will see more protests in other cities where they have dominating population and Hindus are in minority. It is weakness of the British government which has seen the worst kind of sexual grooming in the name of Islam, and also various other crimes where the Pakistani Muslims are in much higher proportion in the jails as compared to their actual numbers. And without looking at those factors, there are people who are trying to say that this is Hindutva, which has resulted in this Islamist threat in UK. I think they have not seen this earlier sexual grooming issue. They have not understood that in 1992, 20 Hindu temples were attacked and burned after Babri structure was pulled down. So these people have been trying to stretch their muscles for many years, and this was very clear from the beginning. This is not going to die down. That it took the media and the Indian government 2 weeks to recognize the threat of real jihad, vis-a-vis what they thought it was. And I think it's high time that Indian government intervenes, and also the UK government take the issue much more seriously. They tried de-radicalization for 20 years. They have failed, and this is nothing but naked aggression on the side of the Muslim population there. And this is typically jihadi attitude that will be stopped by sane elements within Muslim society and others in the UK society, and it will spread because the Hindu media, Hindu phobia has been spread by academics, by politicians, without understanding Hinduism, without looking through the Islam what it truly is. And this needs to be called out.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much for joining us, Mr. Ratan Shraddha. What you're saying is that the clashes that took place after the India-Pakistan match are just a cover for the simmering hatred that already exists in targeting one community. Radical hate that needs to be cracked down on.